I bet that China capabilities in the AI space, you will see a massive, if not domination, but definitely on par with the US in terms of the level of technical capabilities, the innovation, the speed. There's someone sending the proposal, right? Before sending proposal, it's like, okay, ChatGPT or like DeepSeek, help me to form this proposal. And then I'm sending it to you and you're like, thank you. DeepSeek, can you read this proposal? Why we are doing this? They should talk directly. If you look at the recent Super Bowl commercials, all the AI companies, they came with not showing capabilities of AI, but the one message was, don't be scared of AI. We're here to help. That future has arrived. It's just not evenly distributed.
Today we're going to talk about building AI agents, and I am with no other but Anthony Sarr, who has recently ventured out into the world of AI agents and succeeded. Anthony, for those that do not know what it is you do with Finnovasia and with Samantha, your latest AI endeavor, can you explain in a few words?
My name is Anthony. I'm the co-founder of Finnoverse. Finnoverse is the largest community of tech Web3 professionals in the region. We have over 50,000 people in our community, and we've been here for almost 10 years running one of the most important professional events in Hong Kong. The most known one is Hong Kong Fintech Week, which we are partnering with Hong Kong government. And basically over the course of 10 years, we helped the government to scale it from almost like 300 people to 45,000 last year, coming from more than 150 countries, and de facto becoming the largest tech and finance and business event in the city.
And what was this journey? I know that you started as a journalist, in fact. You were writing for publications such as the Wall Street Journal, Financial Times, and then you ventured into this event space, and now you're building an AI.
Yes. In my previous life, I used to be a journalist. I was a reporter in a publication that was co-issued by Wall Street Journal and Financial Times, covering business. And after the business school, one of the modules during my MBA program took place in Shanghai. And I kind of fell in love with the city. I found China is really fascinating and I wanted to do something. And it coincided with my desire to start my own business. So after a few years, I had tried different things with media and education, corporate education. And it happened that around 2015, I wanted to do something in tech space. And I figured finance in Hong Kong is the biggest industry. And with technologies changing rapidly and disrupting every part of our life, it was very natural for Hong Kong to embrace tech and innovation in financial services market. So I was never involved in finance myself, like directly, but as a consumer, as someone who went through the sort of painful experience of having my own mortgage, buy an apartment, paying, I figured there's so much more you can do to improve this. Our mission was to create the platform for those sort of crazy, daring entrepreneurs who want to challenge the status quo of how things are done, and ultimately help to push this industry to give consumers a choice to make things faster, cheaper, more efficient. And it happened that I think as the second event, Vitaly Buterin was a speaker, and there was the early days of also blockchain and crypto industry. And it developed rapidly over the last 10 years. This industry really produced massive unicorns, companies like Stripe, Wise, and so on. And you see how China made a huge difference in this space in terms of innovation. When you look at Ant Group, Alibaba, Tencent, and JD, Baidu, everyone is venturing out in so-called digital finance. So a lot of things happen. But one thing that we've noticed over the course of the 10 years organizing large-scale events, ironically, despite the fact that we bring on stage all these cutting-edge innovators who are really on the edge of technological breakthrough, on the back end, mostly, if you look at the conference business, very analog, and it's very inefficient. And one of the biggest pain points in this industry when it comes to bringing people together for large-scale conference events, most of people, if you ask them what's the reason you want to come to the event, they want to meet other people. And of course, they want to learn what's happening in the industry, but they also want to meet with others. But as a paradox, as more people in the room, it's more difficult for you to actually find someone that you want to talk to. and who is relevant to you. So what happens normally at big events, if you attend that, you will find yourself browsing, walking through, and maybe you will likely mostly you will meet people whom you already know. And if you're lucky, they will introduce you to someone who they know, and you will probably have the serendipity effect that you will talk to someone in the queue for the coffee and figure out there's someone you want to do business with or partner or so. So it's a hugely inefficient. There are different companies that try to solve this problem with event apps, but the biggest problem with event apps is, first of all, very few people actually downloading them. And then it's very difficult process to go through onboarding, fill the forms, familiarize yourself with the very different interfaces, create your profile, and then the way how it's done, you need to message someone, ask for a request, like arrange a meeting. It's very, very difficult. And what happens I think like 70% of people don't even bother to download, and over the years you will end up with like a ghosted apps in your phone from different conferences that no one uses with this ghost attendees. So we thought, okay, this doesn't work. What we can do? And a couple of years ago, when LLMs and AI, ChatGPT moment, so I looked at that. Okay, how we can apply this AI technology to these particular pain points that we have in our industry. So we came up with this idea of developing an AI agent, we call it Samantha, who act as, think of like a friend who knows a lot of people and invites you for a party or event and will come say, Ashley, let me introduce you to this person because you might have something to talk to each other.
How does she know?
Yeah, but it works in a small setting of 15 people, 5 people dinner.
Networker.
Yeah, but when it comes to 45,000 people at the event, it's humanly impossible to know everyone. So we've developed this idea that you will have your own personal AI agent who understands and knows everything about you, understand what you're passionate about, what you're working on, what are your challenges, what kind of people you want to meet, what is critical for your business right now at this point of time, what we call intent, and helps to understand who is best for you to connect with at the event. And we hired a group of engineers. I was lucky to bring my friend who has experience working in like companies like Deloitte, and he spent a couple of decades in a very senior developer. And he led the engineering team in enterprise-grade sort of banking, mobile banking, fintech banking solutions. And we built together quickly a team of 5 engineers, mostly very senior ones. And we started from scratch, building through this. And what we developed is probably one of the first, for sure, the first in Hong Kong. There are some examples of what we've done in North America, but it's definitely one of the few examples of actual real agent that autonomously makes decisions, works on its own to help analyzes the different needs of different people and help them to connect in a real environment with real people. And it's just not random people, but it's financial executives, professionals, senior professionals in this industry.
So how would you describe Samantha in just a few sentences?
Yeah, so basically our vision is to build an infrastructure for offline human relationships, professional human relationships, powered by AI. So what does it mean? Like if you think of how we connect with each other, you have a digital layer, like say LinkedIn, social networks, Twitter, all of this, which is already pretty much very developed. But once we leave the digital network and we go into messy, highly unstructured human world, this connection breaks and we end up in a very, very inefficient, messy human offline kind of real world environment. So for the first time, I think with the advancement of AI, we could actually build a very structured infrastructure, same as you would do it online, but for offline people's relationships and human connections in professional space.
So Samantha, in other words, is the personal assistant who helps you network in a meaningful way at large-scale events to form a human connection and with business outcome as the goal.
Yeah, I mean, events, it's where we started. It's not necessarily we want to limit with events. Events are just a good excuse for all these people to come together in one place at the same time. And it was natural for us as the event organizer to pilot the Samantha during the Kong Fintech week because we have all this access to all these people. But the idea is that your needs, your business needs, are not ending with the end of the conference. You want to continue to meet people, build your network, finding new opportunities. And Samantha is staying with you. And what happened in offline kind of world, every time you will go to a new place, new meeting, new dinner, it kind of resets. And you have to start from scratch. Hi, I'm Anthony, I'm doing this and that. But with Samantha, she has this memory and a sort of kind of a digital passport of yours that maintains throughout all these interactions. So that's what we call infrastructure layer for the offline relationships and connections.
Very interesting. So let's start from scratch. I'm sure all of us super excited right now. Everybody wants to build their own agent, and it all sounds very futuristic. I would even say nearly cyberpunk. But let's start from the beginning. What were the steps that you took? How long did it take from the very, very beginning?
I had this idea back in almost like a year ago. I was in Dubai attending a few conferences, and I was thinking of how we can use AI, and that was I spent a couple of weeks vibe coding myself and MVPing a few ideas and a few solutions. I came across with a couple of examples. I think someone is building similar agent with capabilities of having a voice call. I'm like, I think it's very interesting. And I called my friend and said, look, do you think we could do something that at the production kind of level for the scale of what we do? And it happens that I had to go to the US to attend a couple of conferences there in Las Vegas. It was like 3 conferences in a row, AI and then FinTech. And I was super busy with my day work and I flew there and I didn't really have time to register myself into like all these 3 apps. It was a nightmare, figure out how this works. And I already on the way, I had to book all these hotels and I already overwhelmed. So I ended up like in the position of myself as attending conference and I kind of look how painful it that was this experience. And that convinced me fully, okay, we need to go ahead and just double down on this. So I came back, we sit down, it took me a few months to convince my friend to leave, very good job at Deloitte. But we assembled a team, we started to work. Initially, our vision was from the beginning that we want to bring a new way of how you build interface. It was back in January already kind of seeing that, right, WhatsApp potentially could be a much better interface. Because LLMs, what this LLM is a large language model, means it can have a conversation, a human-like conversation. So we thought, why don't we just bring everything into WhatsApp environment, where you don't need to download any apps, you don't need to create any interface or any dashboard, and you directly put your Samantha in between, your friends and your husband and things like that. So, and do it as less friction as possible. So the next step was to develop the onboarding interview. So how does Samantha know what you're looking for? Instead of typing all this long explanation, which people don't bother to do, we did this in a way of voice AI interview with human-like conversation over the phone. That was coincided also with the breakthrough in voice AI development. I think many people still don't really understand this massive shift of how human-like the conversation nowadays and how the capabilities of voice AI, it almost becomes to the point you start to really losing this kind of uncanny valley feeling when you talk to AI. So we've built this component which is like a voice AI voice conversation with Samantha. So we had to decide what kind of voice is that, what kind of character, what kind of questions, how does the flow of the questions. I think we had like hundreds, thousands of calls with Samantha. And then once we enabled that, we needed to build a very comprehensive matchmaking algorithm so we understand how actually people connect with each other. In a way, our philosophy is to focus on win-win combinations. So think about the game theory. It's like the likelihood of success of two people building something sustainable and meaningful kind of relationship where they have both very complementary things that they can offer. Which means I may have something to offer for you, but if you're not interested, the likelihood of us doing something is very low. But if we both have something to offer to each other, and this is something that we put as a cornerstone of our sort of matching algorithm. And of course, we spent a few months on building a very robust infrastructure underneath. So the guys who worked in Accenture, Deloitte, and all these companies, they literally invested a few months of building a very reliable, secure, and scalable underneath infrastructure for us to deploy that at the event with thousands of attendees, thinking about concurrent conversations, calls, and it's very complex and also secure because we're talking about the data that people share, the sensitive data of their business. So we needed to make sure that it's all reliable and you can't wipe code this stuff. So that was the journey. And we tested pilots in the summer and got really good feedback. And we deployed it fully into production at the Hong Kong Fintech Week. One of the biggest challenge for this part was that we didn't really have opportunity to test it at scale. So it was a little bit of a scary moment because from basically zero, it will go up to like thousands at the same time. But thankfully, the guys did a really remarkable job to build this such a robust infrastructure, so it was super smooth. As a result, we had around 3,500 people had a conversation with Samantha. I mean, more than half of them had a call, which lasted around 6.5 minutes, which is a pretty good, I think, overall achievement, because if the voice thing wouldn't work, people will just hang off, right? And Samantha managed, over the course of a few days of the conference, to generate over 1,000 real introductions between real people at the event. So that was a really exciting moment to see that, because we were at this place and we created like a Samantha cafe at the event where we invited people just to come and chat to the team. And we got overwhelming feedback. People were coming like, I never had this in any conference. And the one thing we also done, in addition to the matchmaking, we also created a few cool features. So like Hong Kong Fintech Week is a very complex event. We have 8 stages, multiple forums. Only speakers, we have 700 of them, over 1,000 exhibitors, and we have over 200 satellite events throughout the week. Just to go through all of this, it takes time. So what we've done with Samantha, after the call, she would analyze what are your preferences, what are your needs, what your focus is, and she will design a very precise itinerary for you that will be synchronized with your calendar. And she designs the entire itinerary for you for the whole week and explains why this talk, this stage, this event, this meeting would be most beneficial for what you're doing. So that was one of the additional features that I think people were pretty happy to explore and get them out of this. But overall, I think it gave us a massive boost of confidence that this is something that is going to be a future. It solves a massive pain point for a lot of people, and we are only in the beginning of understanding about how big this shift could be. And that's where we started to think that shouldn't be just an event, one-off thing. We were testing whether, how it will work. It was a little bit of proof of concept. But now we are confident that it could be much, much bigger thing than just event meetings.
When it comes to the team, you've mentioned infrastructure a little bit, but when it comes to the team, I'm just wondering, who were the people that you had to hire? You said that there was a lead that you had to steal from a large enterprise. But beyond that, are we talking developers? Are we talking about Upwork team? Are we talking about really senior people, very junior people? Are we talking about someone with a lot of domain knowledge? What was that composition exactly?
So first of all, it's naive to think if you're building AI today that you can buy yourself into the space. You can find AI experts and who will build for you the cutting edge AI applications, because you know what? There are no AI experts there. The industry is so nascent. The whole thing is just started to develop like a couple of years ago. And the only way for you to build a strong AI experience team is to actually learn it and do it by doing yourself. Every single week, every month, there's a new model, there's a new application, there's a new development, and understanding, learning, and keeping up yourself with this. This is the only way to build this experience. I don't know any examples or use cases like in Hong Kong of to which extent what we've done, whereas you have a true autonomous agent acting in a real environment with the real people. By autonomous agent, what I mean is when people sometimes mistakenly call an agent sort of like a ChatGPT with the system prompt or custom prompt. Autonomous agent is making decisions on its behalf without human intervention. So Samantha talks to people, understands their needs, and she's deciding whom she wants to introduce to whom. And to my knowledge, I don't know any use cases of now that acts with real people in real world, in a real environment, not a demo, not a prototype, not an MVP. And there are just literally no teams, no engineers capable of doing that you could just go and employ. So we had to basically grow and learn together with our team. Luckily, the topic is so exciting. So our engineers basically told me for years of their work previously, they never were so happy and excited to work on something like that. Because literally we're building things that didn't exist before. And say, when we started, initially we were thinking, should we have a dashboard profile and then we build something like that and then scrap it. We don't need it anymore because we have WhatsApp. This is the interface. But what is WhatsApp interface? Is to think about software interfaces like we used to know them. Software interface, if you go to Microsoft Word, you have a certain specific functions. You can open the file, you can save, you can edit, you can print, and that's it, because it's already built-in functionality. You can't do anything else. With the conversational interface, you have multiple millions of ways of interacting, which kind of interesting because there is no specific set of rules of how they can work, which is very new for developers having this kind of UI as a conversation, which, by the way, I think is the future of how we will interact with the software of tomorrow, because everything will become a conversation. Why is this the future? We as humans, we're not designed to talk through the keyboards or even iPhones or whatever. We as humans, we interact by speaking to each other, conversing, often through the voice, mostly, but also in other means like mimics. And this is the most natural way of communication for humans. Large language models allowing this conversational interface. So in the future, you will not have websites as we know them today. So now you go into if you're buying the tickets, you go to, say, booking.com or booking the hotel, you put the dates or this city, this how many stars, and going through this. In the future, you will talk to your super agent, the super assistant, who would do it for you. And this agent doesn't need this interface because the agent will connect with Booking.com underlying system natively. So what does it mean? Every large company, tech company, whether it's Microsoft with Copilot, whether it's OpenAI, whether it's Gemini with Google or Anthropic with Claude, there's a biggest race nowadays to build this a super assistant, what we call. And super assistant will be helping you to take care of all kind of parts of your life, professionally, with family, everything. On your behalf, your super assistant will be talking to other applications out there and helping you to do things through this. But before it happened, we have to kind of preemptively develop this interface for Samantha, because that's how you would interact with software. So therefore, we build this native conversational interface for Samantha, which is quite fascinating, technically challenged, because you really need to anticipate a lot of scenarios and find a way how this can work. Another interesting challenge is people ask me often, oh, so what kind of languages you use to build that? And I'm like, guess which language? It's very simple. A big part of our engineering is actually English.
Yeah.
Why? Because everything that comes to work with when you work with the LLMs,
Yes.
you have to do the prompt engineering
Right.
underneath.
Yes.
So the prompt engineering is a plain English. Of course, you put this in a JSON form and all this, but this is another very new experience for developers, because
To build it in English.
yeah, because you have to explain things in a plain English
see.
rather than using the computer language.
Right.
Essentially, how the Samantha works, I mean, for the outside, we call it Samantha, right? But underneath, we actually have multiple agents. And different agents working on different parts of the whole experience. There's one agent who is in charge of conversation, another agent in charge of voice call. Even within the voice, you have multiple LLMs and multiple models to support different aspects, text-to-speech, speech-to-text, voice model, and so on. And then you have matching algorithm agent, which is a separate responsible for that, and so on and so on. So the orchestration work between all of these agents, there was another interesting thing to develop. It's super fascinating topic and really exciting. I think very few people done it. We are very proud to be one of the pioneers in the space, and there's a lot of learnings. But I feel like we're into something that would be really, really massively shifting the way how we build software, interact with software, and overall kind of role of the AI in our lives going forward.
So stepping back, again, if someone to explore this idea, if you were to start again from day one, who would you take on board?
We have a mixed team. We have more senior developers and there's younger ones. I think you can benefit from experience of someone very experienced in building very reliable, scalable infrastructure for serious software. And then someone is younger with more sort of less of kind of stereotype of approach. Let's say LLMs are, there's always this dilemma, being, deterministic versus, it's a different approach of working with large language models, and it's not like a very hard-coded things like if then, because you give autonomy for agent in a way to interpret things and make decisions which AI is capable of. So it's not purely automation. There's a lot of things that you outsource to LLM to process information and decide certain steps to do. So I think if you have someone really experienced to build the core, and then could be complemented by more kind of younger ones who are open to new. But one thing is critical, no matter experience or age or whatever, is ability to adapt and to really quickly learn, because that makes the biggest difference. Adapting to this new, constantly evolving, changing, trying different approach and learn what's the newest things and bring it back and adopting testing. That's the most important quality if you want to build something like that.
And in your experience, how big shall the team be? So one senior developer, one junior developer, or are we talking there must be at least 4 roles, 5 roles? Like, does it matter?
I guess it's a good question to my technical director, but I think you can do a lot with the team of the handful team of 4 or 5 people. You don't need to have a big number of engineers. It's just because it becomes very inefficient once it grows. So you really need to be mindful adding more hands in that, because once you add more people, it becomes more difficult, additional communication. At this stage, I think we're in a very, very healthy number. Going forward, once we scale that, where we need additional hands, but we are trying to maintain as lean as possible, only also from the cost perspective, but also from the kind of operational perspective.
And talking about the cost perspective, so what does it take? Is it something that actually smaller companies can fathom building, or is it completely out?
It could be quite costly, and the biggest cost, of course, would be talent, because again, there's a massive competition for good talents out there, especially those who are, like I said, willing to learn, adopt, but also have a decent experience. It can cost you hundreds of $1,000s per year just to get something like a production enterprise grade to develop in nowadays. We're talking about Hong Kong. I guess it might be cheaper, and if you do it in other kind of parts of the world, it certainly will be way more expensive if you're in the US.
And is outsourcing an option? I'm sure a lot of people are sitting there and they know someone, or they have Upwork, or they've heard, as you said, those vibe coding examples where as long as you're determined enough and you're willing to kind of geek into the topic, you can do it. Do you believe, based on your experience, this is
It depends
an
on
option?
It depends. If you just want to build something secondary to support your business, potentially you can maybe work with teams, outsourced teams. But when we started with Samantha, for me it was more like a very fundamental shift. We spin off the company called Finaverse AI. We have this vision to really transform our business entirely and become an AI native, tech-first company rather than analog kind of traditional business. So the Finaverse AI is meant to become a new Finaverse. And so we have been working for the last 10 years as Finaverse, and the next 10 years will be in the era of tech. So we want to capture this opportunity. We see this rare window for us to jump in and really build something. Therefore, we put, most like serious investment up front with a long-term vision to really take us into the new level, rather than we just automate a few functions or bring some LLM automation.
More specifically, talking about the tech stack, because you've described what the team looks like. But when it comes to the tools, when it comes to building proprietary, let's say, main brain models and whatnot, how much are you using what's available? How much are you innovating yourself? And what have you learned based on this experience that is transferable to other people endeavoring something like that?
Of course, we are not developing our own models, for sure. I don't think we're in a situation where we should even invest into fine-tuning existing models. We look at what's available in the market, because we also have flexibility to switch to newer model, better models, and the relay capabilities evolving every month. So not having something like really hard-coded into our environment, but rather keep an opportunity to be flexible with different tool set. This our philosophy. But the orchestration layer, I think that is the most complex and the most difficult part. The integration of different tools is relatively easy, but way to orchestrate this process, how they communicate with each other and to achieve what we want, objectives. And that's where we put that's where the biggest IP is, because that's the secret sauce, and that's where making all these tools work together, that's the most difficult part.
And how is it built from the technical standpoint? So you have your own server, offline, online, and you plug in the tools, or are you using already an existing, like, I don't know, manners, and then you supercharge manners?
I can't go into more like very commercial specifics of how it's built, but just to give you a sense, as I explained, we use different models, different LLMs, lighter ones for simple tasks, more complex one for reasoning, for more like reasoning tasks. So we have a variety of tools depending on the use case for what we use, and have this orchestration layer underneath and infrastructure layer that supports all of this.
Now, when it comes to Hong Kong, it's a very unique place to build, let's say, a forward-thinking tech company. As you've mentioned, it's all about finance. It's all about, let's say, legacy systems. We are also known as being a lot more traditional than even mainland China. We are very often excluded from some of the social media or tools used. I mean, it's not the easiest place. Besides that, our labor force is quite expensive compared to the rest of the region. So, in your view, being in Hong Kong is an advantage or a disadvantage for a tech company that has global ambition?
I think it's both advantage and disadvantage. Of course, if you're in Silicon Valley or in Shenzhen, you have access to the massive pool of talents. You're constantly in every corner. There's a meetup, a hackathon. You can have direct access to all these people who are building stuff. But at the same time, Hong Kong, for the same reason, is a great place to start this because you don't really have that much of a competition. And I feel like the fact that we are strong in finance and business and what we're developing is really perfectly fit for the needs of these professionals. And I think we're really well suited to cater the needs. And we've been in Hong Kong for the last 10 years. It's our home. My co-founder, she's from Hong Kong. I feel like Hong Kong has a massive, massive potential. And the fact that it doesn't have this maybe that robust technology ecosystem gives us in a certain way advantage to quickly go to the market and avoid of this furious competition if it would be in Shenzhen or in Silicon Valley. But saying that, it's a very limited market. It's our home market where we're starting, but our focus, of course, is not just limited to Hong Kong, and we definitely want to grow further. And that's the plan for the next couple of years to scale it from here. But we are proud to build it in Hong Kong. I'm really grateful for Hong Kong, give us this opportunity to start our business. I came here 15 years ago, and 10 years ago, I didn't know many people. I was just coming, fresh, and I managed to, luckily also with my co-founder, we managed to build things from scratch. We bootstrapped. We never took any outside funding, and because the city provides a massive opportunity for someone who is really serious about what they're doing.
Okay, so advantages and disadvantages, and again, a great endorsement into Hong Kong and our entrepreneurial spirit here. You have, over the past years, obviously building Samantha and also through Hong Kong Fintech Week as an organizer, been in touch with people from Silicon Valley, from mainland China. You've seen their approach, very different approach to building things, launching things, even the philosophy, the mindset itself behind what the future looks like, what good looks like. So can you share a little bit where you stand in that and where is our world going with being supercharged by AI, but also pulled into maybe different directions by these two super regions?
It's a very different approach, definitely, like you said. It's interesting. I can give you a couple of examples. First of all, when we launched Samantha, we enable both English and Mandarin Chinese. And we saw much faster adoption of Samantha among actually Mandarin speakers, because I feel like for Chinese mainland attendees at the Fintech Week, they were feeling much more native and smooth to get on board with Samantha than an average Hong Kong or European, even though we're in the environment of finance and technology conference where people are the most open to the new tech. But still, I think quite a few people were a little bit intimidated by the idea that they need to have a call with the AI. However, good news, once they have a call, they were pleasantly surprised and they were really changing their perception. But still, you have that intimidation as of now, which I think will change. But if you look at the bigger picture, I give you a specific use case. So we work with multiple providers, different tool set, and we had experienced some questions and problems. And I reached out to founder in Silicon Valley and said, look, we've been using your service, this and that, and we have encountered this problem. Is there a way we could figure out how we can work? And I never had a reply. And I get the same situation with the Chinese company in Minimax. I think we were asking there whether we can try their one of their tools. And I reached out to founder, and in 2 minutes she set up the WeChat group. I talked directly. Our team talked to the engineers. It was so smooth, and I felt like, wow. The Chinese, I feel like for a lot of Silicon Valley companies, because of it has so much funding out there. So they don't really necessarily care about each user. So if I leave the service, they wouldn't be bothered that much because they will have another 100 coming tomorrow. While Chinese, and they would, the customer care, the attention is way different because they will fight for each customer to make this great experience for them. And I feel like it's a massive difference. I was really surprised, and I give it an example like. Although we eventually didn't choose, but the experience was amazing, and really big respect for the founder and for the team. And I think China, given this, there's kind of very natural attitude, customer first, fighting for the customer and fierce competition. I think it will definitely, in the long term, become definitely one of the biggest advantage on top of their technical capabilities.
That's very interesting. China, as we all know, is leading when it comes to adoption, right? People, I think, over the past 35 years have seen so much change that they know that jobs are going to disappear. If I'm not upskilling, I'm dying. And that is why when new technology comes, new opportunities come, it is only natural to act upon it, right? Besides that, through the growth of the market, from e-commerce to any app, people have to fight for their consumer because there's just so much choice. And Chinese consumers are, quite frankly, very spoiled. They want it cheap, they want it good, they want it now, right? So with that same mindset, I think mainland Chinese companies somehow bring it into everything they do. And also the money, as you say, they're not readily available. Nobody's throwing money at them. Yeah. People work really, really hard. And the work ethics and that desire to build something new together is also, I think, very strong and could be a non-obvious but strong advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they are hugely undervalued at the moment. And it's this situation is more sort of artificial in my way. I bet that China capabilities in the AI space, you will see a massive, if not domination, but definitely on par with the US in terms of the level of both the technical capabilities, the innovation, the speed. It's gonna be interesting to see how this will play out. But for us, we take the position to get. We're not choosing sides. We're looking at, okay, where are the best for what we working on, what we're doing, and we take the best of both.
Both worlds. Do you primarily use open source?
Not really. Open source, it could be a certain stage at some point, once we have more like a static things at hand, at scale. As of now, we basically give ourselves a flexibility to switch between the closed source models.
Because obviously in proprietary models, Americans are really pushing towards AGI, but when it comes to open source models, that's where China is really shining. And what we're seeing today across Southeast Asia, across Africa, across the Russian-speaking world, across Latin America, the developers who do not have even $20 to pay on a monthly subscription for something, what are they using? They're using Chinese open source models to build, to innovate, to really bring that technology onto the market and land it.
Cost efficiency definitely at scale. The open source is definitely a massive advantage. As of now, for us doesn't really make sense to invest heavily into kind of building the infrastructure on top of the open source models, because we also want to maintain this flexibility to jump on the have choice of different models and make use of the new models appearing available. But we're agnostic towards where this model is coming from.
Let's talk about Samantha. So I have my data here. You generated 1,000 curated introductions and had an 80% satisfaction rate during the latest Hong Kong Fintech Week. What does Samantha actually do for a user at an event, as we discussed, right? It can pre-plan your agenda, but here I am offline at an event. What's the functionality?
Yeah, so Samantha designed to be your 24/7 AI host of the event. Primarily objective for her is to make your experience at this use case at the event, make your experience at the event get the most out of this. So whether attending the right talks, meeting the right people, navigating through, you can ask her anything like, what's happening now? Where should I go? Where's the coffee? What's the event happening on Thursday? How can I get there? So she also helps as a concierge, and she can navigate you, help you with any questions. What thing we've done also after the event was over, we took the transcripts of all the conversations took place across all the 8 stages across 2 days. It's a massive amount of data. And we give it to Samantha, and we let everyone who used Samantha to ask any question what was discussed throughout these days at the conference based on the interest. We've also developed like a follow-up email saying, okay, you were specifically interested in AI and compliance for this and that. Here's what was discussed by different speakers at different events and different stages across the whole week in relation to this topic that might be helpful for you. But you can also converse with her like you would converse with ChatGPT, asking, okay, what was the biggest trends, what are the biggest fears, opportunities, and she would help you to get the answer collectively, taking this knowledge from within the conference, which you can't get anywhere else because we are not publishing it online.
And right now, after the pandemic, all sorts of events, offline events in particular, picking up. I mean, from music festivals, right, to offline conferences, to people preferring to, again, travel. Travel is picking up hugely, domestically in mainland China, internationally, etc. So what is the future? Because you keep saying that Samantha is not only for events. It is really your way to interact with the physical world and make meaningful human connections. So what is the future, first of all, of events and events industry, in your view, being in here for 10 years plus? And on top of it, what is the future of Samantha in that newly found immersive world?
So the problem with events often is no one really knows what's happening there.
What's the ROI?
The ROI is also could be sometimes very challenging to understand and measure. Unlike digital advertising, okay, you put some dollars here, you have CTA, CPA, whatever. How do you measure your exposure at the event? How do you know your sponsorship, you bought a ticket, and often organizers, they don't really have little clue of actually what are the needs of these people coming to your event. So by working with Samantha has this anonymized, aggregated understanding of the intents of thousands of people. Okay, now based on this information, we can better understand these are the most pressing topics and things that people actually really care about. So we can create experience that tailor-made for their needs. And therefore, we can work with our corporate partners who would be also helping them to find the right way approach to these audience so that we can find a much more efficient synergy between all of these pieces. So I think building this AI infrastructure for offline connections is a missing element that will help this industry to really elevate the experience. So for anyone involved, whether you're attending, you're speaking, and overall, I feel like one thing we're also noticing, the content part of the event it's still important, but for younger generation, say like in their 20s, who grew up through this kind of COVID, and it's kind of still it's a little bit weird for them to sit in the classroom like conference and hear the speaker. They really puzzle. What is going? Why are these boomers always sitting there? You can all find this online, right? And what you can see at some conference, luckily not at ours, but in some conferences you see there are more speakers on stage than people in the room, and the few who are sitting there, they're in their phones, and there's unfortunately you cannot scroll the speakers. You have to go through. So I think that what happened with events, there's a massive need after COVID for people to meet with each other. We see the stadiums full of, fans of, Taylor Swift and all this stuff, K-pop stars. And then the big conference recognizing that, and we call it the trend called so-called festivalization, where they bring all these sort of experiences, music festival-like experiences into the conferences. Someone is doing cold plunges, yoga, whatever it could be, to create a more interesting experience and involve people, rather than just being in a classroom like a theater-style conference. And ultimately, for us, what is the most important is people want to spend time with people. People want to share the experience with people. And people want to meet other people and build relationships. This is something that AI can't do. And no matter in the future how advanced AI technology will be, how much of our routine work AI will take, there's one thing that will not go away, is people want to spend time with people and build relationships. And when we're developing Samantha, our focus is not to create an AI assistant, AI sort of personality that we want you to spend time with. It's not your AI girlfriend. She is designed with only one objective, is to help you to meet other people. It's designed to help us humans to connect with as more meaningfully with other humans as possible. And if you look at this, again, younger generation, Gen Zs and all this, they grew up in this environment where sort of digitally connected, constantly in digital connection online, between Instagram, Xiaohongshu, whatever. The tragedy is that as more they connected, as more they actually disconnected offline. And then it comes with some problems as of isolation, and is a massive loneliness problem, especially among teenagers, youngers. And I feel like the worst can happen if they will switch to AI. And that's where we see our sort of mission is to double down on bringing the people offline together, but do it with the help of AI even better, so that we can maximize this relevance, maximize the meaningfulness part, and minimize the awkwardness. So what Samantha can do now, she can invite you for a dinner, and you can be surrounded by the like-minded people whom you know what you're going to talk about and why they're sitting with you, and she would introduce each other. Things like that. And going forward, we are rolling out a very interesting program very soon, in a couple of months. We'll be announcing, I don't want to spoil this, but we're definitely doubling down on human connections, interactions. But one thing we're going to do in end of March, in a couple of months, we're hosting an event called Genesis in Hong Kong Yacht Club. Genesis is designed for family offices, for younger generation of family stewards and tech founders. And the whole event experience will be orchestrated by Samantha. So from your breakfast, where you sit with going to lunch, to the round table, talk, one-on-one meetings will be done with the help of Samantha. So she'll be directing you to help you to suggesting with whom you should talk to. So making this experience out of attending this event, so you no longer should be standing awkwardly, and if you're especially introvert, she will gently help you to connect meaningfully with these people. And I think that will be definitely a very new experience of every event we're done. I'm very, very excited about this.
Oh, it's definitely a beautiful, when it works, version of reality. How will Samantha integrate into the reality of the super assistant, right? Each and every one of us will have a virtual assistant that runs our life. You call them super assistants earlier today. So imagine this. I do not need to introduce myself. So will Samantha just speak with my assistant, set it up with somebody else's assistant, and then bring us at that point in time together?
Yeah, I think in the future you will not have 50 different AI agents to talk to.
Yes.
You will have one
Sure.
Meta super assistant of your choice, whether you want to speak to Google one, or maybe Alibaba one, or Tencent, or Claude, and so on. So this assistant will work with different other agents. And because Samantha is AI native thing, so it can natively connect to the super assistant. Because it's designed already in a way that it will be naturally easy to connect with. I don't know, now we're talking about MCP protocol, maybe there will be others, but there's already infrastructure for this. And that's interesting because I don't even know whether we'll have like websites, computers, or phones in the way how we use it now. And guess that's probably something that Johnny Ive now with Sam Altman are trying to build as a new generation of device, maybe which you were gonna talk to, interact with, and Meta is doubling down on their.
And I saw a necklace that you put as a kind of little token over your neck, and it just records everything you do wherever you go.
Yeah, definitely. So there is no way we can compete with the distribution that these companies already have. But before it happened, we still build this interface of Samantha talking to Samantha. It may not be the same way in the future. You will just talk to your assistant, and this assistant will interact with Samantha. And Samantha will be helping your assistant to connect with other people and things like that. And I think it will be done for different parts of our life and different things, no matter what. So instead of you talking to a government agent about your, I don't know, water bills, it will be your agent talking to the government agent.
Of course.
Because it will be much more efficient for them. Even more, like if you think about the business, you can see nowadays what happens. There's someone sending the proposal, right? And then before sending proposal, it's like, okay, ChatGPT or like DeepSeek, help me to form this proposal. And then I'm sending it to you, and you're like, thank you. DeepSeek, can you read this proposal? Why we are doing this? They should talk directly. And what I assume would happen, the processes, the business, you have your legal team, you have your sales team, you have production team, whatever the team, AI agent, they will be performing all these processes stuff. Negotiating the best conditions between each other, finding the right things to do. However, we as humans, we will not be involved in this level of processes. Like if you're a CEO of the company today, you're not going to involve into this kind of details, right? But then what we will be left with is the most fundamental important thing is to build the trust. Whether I want to work with you, how we're going to work with each other. And that thing built on human trust that you can develop with AI. That means much more than often, it means face-to-face meeting with all these technologies. And for this face-to-face meeting, we are developing this infrastructure.
So what is the timeline? You're talking about the AI agents becoming the major force in our life. We're talking about the online, offline event, the emergence of all that basically being completely transformed. Are we talking half a year? We're talking about a decade.
That's a very good $1 billion question. I think there's certain things that we discussed gonna be very soon. There's certain things that will take much longer time. Realistically speaking, of course, if we talk outside of our sort of bubble that we're very consumed by all these AI things, and if you look at the recent Super Bowl commercials, all the AI companies, they came with not showing capabilities of AI, but the one message was Alexa, or whether it's Microsoft or Google, they were like, don't be scared of AI. We're here to help. Don't
freak out.
Freak out. Because I feel like if I forget for a second that a biggest part of population, for them, AI is a super new thing, and it's very, very unknown, although there is a huge interest, and need to be realistic about that. However, it's like the famous quote that future has arrived. It's just not evenly distributed. So we will see some more adoption in certain places with certain industries. There will be obviously will take a much longer time for the rest, but the shift is already happening. That's for sure. I can't say the specific timeline. Even in our case, obviously, the whole proposition that we have, voice AI call, conversation with the AI makes decision, helping you to connect. Building this, we have, of course, a big number of early adopters, but yeah, it takes time to get this trust for the wider audience. And we are talking about, again, already people who are very
self-selected in the right room.
Yeah, they are supposed to be on the forefront of technology, right? So, but at the same time, I think I'm not that conservative, because I assume that once this shift will start, it will be very, very fast to get people up to speed. One thing I'm sure, we need to start building this foundation now. So I'm not saying it's going to be like a tomorrow, but we are building this foundation now with aspiration that it will take a few years, maybe 2-3 years, before it will start becoming a mainstream.
Okay, so by 2030.
Yeah, I think definitely conversational interface will start to become much more mainstream, depending on how fast this. And companies also will build the super assistant capabilities, but I think it's definitely going to happen sooner than we expect in certain areas. But of course, it may be much longer for other things.
Well, by now I'm extremely excited to actually test out Samantha. Shall we do that?
Sure.
Woohoo! Bring her on.
All right. So basically, we set up for you a real Samantha that is going to be an AI host.
And if I am just entering the event, so how do I set up my own Samantha? What would that look like?
Okay, the moment you register for
an event,
that in our case, this is Genesis event that is happening in the end of March, you receive a mail from Samantha saying, okay, start the conversation with me on WhatsApp. And
you click a button?
You click a button, start a conversation, you go into WhatsApp, and then you end up into WhatsApp saying, hi, Samantha, there's an invite code. And in a second...
So just for those who is not seeing the screen or listening to us online, what I'm receiving here is, hi Samantha, here's my invite code, right? So basically I was invited to an event, and then in the chat I see a message which says, I found your invite details as follows. You are Ashley Dudarinok, shares my email and other information. And then it confirms whether or not this is correct. So right now it has misunderstood my email, misunderstood my nationality. So we have corrected that in the chat.
Yeah.
And Samantha is digesting newly submitted info. Oh, fantastic. So it corrected my nationality, and it says, if everything is fine, please confirm. So I'm confirming in the chat. I say, yes, that's right.
Just for the record, we need to tell Samantha that Ashley is Chinese from
Hong Kong. I am Chinese from Hong Kong. She wasn't aware. We're setting that record straight.
Yes. All right, so now she's sending basically the code to your email.
Yes.
And
you confirm.
And then we just tell her, okay, this is the code.
Yes.
And then she would be able to talk to you just in a second. So it's basically a step to verify who you are.
Right. So the first step, she says, I found your application. Step 2, she says, okay, here's the OTP code. It goes to your email, you input it, and then the conversation is going to start. Okay. Yes.
And then we're just having a call.
So we just ring her. Ladies and gentlemen, we ring her on WhatsApp.
All right. So I will put it on speaker. I hope you can just keep it closer to you.
Hello, Ashley. It's Samantha. I am your AI community host at Universe. How's your day going?
Hello, Samantha. It's going great. It's a bit late by now. I'm a bit tired.
I totally understand, Ashley. I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me. So I'm here to help make your experience at the Genesis Festival really valuable. I'd love to learn more about what you're working on and what matters to you. Do you have about 5 to 10 minutes to share?
Absolutely. Let's do this.
Great. So I'd love to start by getting a sense of what you're working on right now. What's keeping you busy these days at Chosen?
We are launching a big program for corporate clients and corporate universities on how to learn from China.
Oh, interesting. So what does that program actually look like? Like, what kind of insights or skills are you aiming to provide to those corporate clients?
It's all about corporate education when it comes to digital transformation. So very often corporate teams used to send their senior leaders to places like Harvard Business School and London Business School, and they would sit and learn from case studies and from excellent professors and lecturers. But right now they want to have more experiential learning. They want to be in the rooms with other senior executives from Chinese companies to actually share their insights and learn through immersions.
That sounds really cool. So you're focusing on providing those immersive experiences to help corporate leaders learn directly from their peers in China. What made you decide to go after this particular approach to corporate education?
I think this is the future. We all need to upskill. We all need to go through digital transformation. And the largest companies out there have a lot of legacy systems, have a lot of very senior leaders that are building and envisioning the future. And they need to have an overview, not only of the American and Western systems, but they also need to see what's happening in China and the rest of the world.
It's interesting because you're really addressing a crucial gap in corporate education. By blending Western insights with Chinese practices, you're helping leaders navigate the complexities of digital transformation more effectively. How far along are you with this program?
Oh, it's been all set up. We've been in business since 2016. It's been nearly 10 years, but right now we're really ready to scale and bring it onto more corporate universities. I'm so glad you're excited about our product.
That's fantastic to hear. It sounds like you have a solid foundation and are poised for significant growth. Looking ahead, what does the bigger picture look like for you over the next year? What would make it a great year for Chosen?
I think if we get to expand more into the US and work with more corporates that are at the forefront of innovation, such as Google, such as, let me think, can you give me some ideas perhaps? Who could be our ideal clients who have very strong corporate universities? I'll give you an example. Something like Google Academy would be great, or somebody like Shiseido, corporate university, or Coca-Cola school of, again, internal kind of development. Maybe you could help me brainstorm.
That makes sense. Expanding into the US market and targeting innovative companies sounds like a solid strategy. Along with Google and Coca-Cola, you might consider looking at companies like Amazon, Microsoft, or even big players in the financial sector like JP Morgan, which also invest heavily in corporate education. What would be the most pressing thing that could help you accelerate that expansion?
Just really meeting the people from the market, the ones that are shaping the future of technology, the ones that are decision makers in those large corporations, especially if they come from the department that looks after research, insights, digital transformation, technology, and, as I said, corporate learning.
Got it. So connecting with decision makers in those departments is key for your expansion. I know we have quite a few founders and senior executives in the room at Genesis Festival who are involved in fintech and tech innovation. Based on what you're telling me, those conversations could be really valuable for you. If you met the perfect person at Genesis Festival for this, what does that unlock for you?
I think for us, it would be understanding the market. It would be, again, the network that we could activate. And in a perfect world, we could also, through Genesis, meet some clients. Would be fantastic if I sat next to someone who would actually, by association, be interested in expanding their footprint and their learning objectives to places such as China and beyond.
That sounds like a solid plan. Understanding the market and activating the right network could really open doors for you. One last question. If you could sit down with someone who's been through exactly this, what's the one thing you'd ask them?
I didn't catch that. Could you repeat again or rephrase?
Of course. If you could meet someone who has successfully expanded their corporate learning programs into new markets like China, what's the one question you would want to ask them?
I would want to ask them, what are the top 3 most pressing topics they are trying to resolve right now? Their issues or their, the black boxes, the knowledge gaps that they are trying to even out by taking their senior leaders on learning journeys around the world?
That's a great question. Understanding those pressing topics could really help shape your approach. So to summarize, you're focused on scaling your corporate education program for digital transformation, aiming to connect with decision makers and innovative companies. The ideal conversations for you would be with those shaping the future of technology and corporate learning, which could unlock valuable insights and networking opportunities. Sound right?
Samantha, you got it all right. Wow, I'm impressed.
Thank you, Ashley. I'm glad to hear that. Before we wrap up, do you have any questions about the Genesis Festival?
Yes, so I'm trying to understand what exactly will you do with this information? How will I experience Genesis differently by, again, engaging you today?
Absolutely. Great question. By sharing this information, I can tailor networking suggestions specifically for you. I'll connect you with relevant attendees at Genesis Festival who align with your goals and interests, helping you have more meaningful conversations. This way, you can maximize your time and potentially find clients or partners who are interested in your program.
Yes, I get that. But so what now, right? Genesis is coming just in a few months. Will I receive an email from you, or will you WhatsApp me those people's contacts, or will you just sneakily, quietly place me next to the person who might be interested? Like what exactly will be different? I'm just trying to prepare myself for that.
I completely understand your need for clarity. After our call, I'll compile the insights and suggestions based on our conversation. You'll receive tailored networking suggestions via WhatsApp or email before the event, highlighting specific individuals you should connect with. While I can't guarantee seating arrangements, I'll make sure to match you with the right conversations during the festival. This way, you'll be well prepared to engage with those who align with your goals.
And you said you're going to send me some recommendations via WhatsApp. So will you have to talk to all these people before, or are you just going to send me their contacts without their consent?
I appreciate your concern. I won't share anyone's contact information without their consent. The recommendations I send will be based on your profile and interest, and I'll ensure that both parties are open to connecting before facilitating any introductions. This way, you can engage with individuals who are genuinely interested in a conversation with you.
And how early will I get those connections or introductions? So will I have a day or two to prepare, or is it going to be a month ahead? What's the timeline?
You'll receive the tailored networking suggestions a few weeks before the Genesis Festival, allowing you time to prepare for those connections. It's designed to give you enough lead time to think about how you'd like to approach those conversations. As we get closer to the event, I'll keep you updated on any relevant details.
When does Genesis start? So what's the first day, and what is the time that we begin our first session?
Genesis Festival starts on March 25th, 2026, and the event will run from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Royal Hong Kong Yacht Club in Causeway Bay. If you have any other questions about the schedule or anything else, feel free to ask.
Awesome. And if I want to reach out to you later on, for example, a week before the event, or I have other questions, can I just call you anytime or not?
You can definitely reach out if you have any questions closer to the event. However, it might be best to schedule a call in advance, as I may not always be available for immediate calls. Just let me know if you want to set something up, and I'll be here to help.
Samantha, it's good to know that you are so busy. I hope you're clearly a busy woman. But I'm looking forward to connecting with you later. I'm going to message you in WhatsApp when I want to set up a call. Okay?
Thank you, Ashley. I'm glad we could connect today, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you on WhatsApp. Just reach out whenever you want to set up a call. I'm here to help. Have a great rest of your day.
You too. Bye. Woohoo! So, fantastic. We've learned that she can really follow. She can understand what is the context. She can connect it with the event, connect it with the kind of context When it comes to reaching out to her, do we need to schedule a call? Can we just...
No, it's actually, you can also schedule a call with her if you want to.
Or you can just call.
Or you can just call, yeah.
Anytime. So after you have her on WhatsApp, you just call.
Yeah.
This is the way we intrude onto very busy
She's just trying to
set healthy boundaries, ladies.
Yes.
We all should be setting healthy boundaries.
Just trying to be difficult a little bit.
I love that personality. She has such a cheerful disposition, but then she's like, you know what? No, you better set up that call. Oh no, that's fantastic. But when it comes to languages, if I start a language in, let's say, Mandarin Chinese or Korean or Russian or whatnot, will it continue in that language?
So generally she can support up to 20 languages, but normally she works best if you already predefine certain language.
So you start in a certain language and you continue in that language.
Yeah, because we fine-tune different experience for different languages.
Yeah.
The out-of-the-box kind of capabilities, she can still support, but if you want to have like a really smooth native experience in certain language, then if you're registering for the event and say, my preference will be Mandarin, the Samantha will be much more prepared for you to speak Mandarin.
To speak that language. This is the way. Okay, I have two short final questions, please. First of all, what would be one piece of advice that you would give to any founder who is about to embark on the journey of building an AI agent for their organization, for their business? And we're not talking about large corporations, we're talking about SMEs.
Stop brainstorming, just start doing that. The only way of getting anywhere is just start building that and then try in different ways and experiment.
And shall it be a full-time job? Stop doing everything else, or 2 hours a day, 5 hours a day?
It depends on how much time you can invest into that. Obviously, as more you spend on that, as more return you will receive. But if you're serious about that, I definitely recommend, no matter what you're doing, no matter what your job is just to experience these tools yourself, put them into practice. Like in our company, we've done the vibe coding hackathon with all our 35 employees. And it definitely helps for everyone in the team, non-technical teams, to get into the kind of understanding what does it mean to build the software, how you can work with AI and apply AI into certain use cases. So the only way to achieve something with this is to start building that.
And force your team onto a hackathon, whether they wanted or not, force them to experience it, no?
We didn't really force it. I feel like it was actually a fun experience for everyone. I think everyone recognizes the need to get up to date with everything. It's always, not necessarily everyone knows where to start and what, so we've designed a hackathon internally where we have developers joining different teams, but they're not allowed to code. They can just observe and provide certain level of consultation without actually touching a keyboard, and let the team do everything from scratch and build and develop.
It was a
software.
one-day thing?
A whole day, yes. And we divided into teams, and then by the end of the day, they actually had to demonstrate the real product, the real application, and that really the use case for what we're doing. And I would highly recommend for everyone to invest the time into doing something like that. There's a lot of fun, a little bit of competitive element, but I think overall, generally, most of my teammates, they were quite excited about seeing that from idea to the actual real application, which before you will need a bunch of engineers to build. Nowadays, you can, for this purpose, like building MVP, you can still web code it. Of course, if you want to do something serious, you still need to have robust engineering capabilities. But just to understand, to have a sense of what you can build in one day, it's quite remarkable. And it's definitely shifting the perception of and your attitude to problem solving through the software and your daily kind of day-to-day situation at work.
Tipping the toes. And finally, what is one non-obvious lesson that you've learned on this journey?
The one obvious lesson for me to be able to start even earlier and experimenting as much as possible. I think when it comes to development process in general, and when specifically with AI, because it's very new, there's no like a playbook, there's no template that you can apply. So everything that you're building with these tools nowadays, no one did it before. So you stepping into this unknown territory, which is providing you with a lot of opportunities, but there's a lot of also uncertainties. So being prepared for a journey where you have 3 steps ahead, 2 steps back, and going through the cycle, you really need a team that is really committed. And I was lucky that we carry on and going through this, but I think like the one thing is not obvious. You can't just like plan things and done it according to your plan, because you need to start with unknown, go into unknown, and throughout this journey you'll figure out.
And you see that this is going to become easier to walk this journey as more and more people.
I don't think so. I think it will become even more complex going forward, because there is so many tools and so many ways and so many things available at the moment. So what helps is to understand what the core thing you're trying to build. For us is helping humans to connect meaningfully, maintaining this as your priority, and then finding the best way to achieve this. That is our strategy.
So figure out what it is you ultimately want to do and just go for it. Do not wait, as it's not going to get easier. There will be no playbook. It will apparently only get more complex, more expensive, and more confusing for all. Thank you so much, Anthony. It was
Thank you,
fantastic.
Ashley.
And I'm sure we're all excited to see Samantha not only at FinTech Week and Genesis, but also more and more offline events and offline occasions. And we're going to continue watching your journey and continue participating in it. Let's go get them, guys, and make sure you start building, not just watching.